It is time for your aversion to Last Jedi spoilers to end. And if it is not that time, you should probably run away right now. Welcome back.
Go away.
Yes. And then a really furry alien breaks your door made out of an X-Wing panel down and screams in your face.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody. This is Let's Talk About Star Wars. Miss Jennie Josephson is here. Hi, Jennie.
I cannot even speak words, which is a problem for doing a podcast. So excited.
I could not speak words when I walked out of this movie with all my friends who care about Star Wars as much as I do. We had no words to say to each other. We were just like, okay, we're going to go home and not sleep now. And also, back, as always, Tom Merritt. Hi, sir.
This is going to go the way you think.
Awesome.
We're going to talk about The Last Jedi, and we're going to spoil things. So.
That's good. It's very
Everything
good.
about what I just said was true.
Yeah, so already kind of gave the spoiler warning, but all we are doing today is spoiling the absolute crap out of The Last Jedi.
If you haven't been able to scramble over and turn this off yet, we can't help you anymore.
Yeah, and sorry for already spoiling the fact that Luke's door is made out of an X-Wing. So,
Yeah.
There you go. There you go. Luke has a door. Spoiler alert. Oh my God. So around the table, how many times have you seen the movie? Jennie?
3.
3? Okay. Tom?
In 28 hours.
Wow. 3 for me in 3 very different situations too.
Okay, cool. I have seen it once. First possible showing in our town here. But I will bring the extra added bonus of I went to Disney this weekend, and unbeknownst to me, they updated Star Tours with a bunch of the Last Jedi stuff.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Already, that's on it.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah, they did the same thing for Force Awakens. We went, and the ride, which usually has 2 randomized planets for your journey, always ended in Jakku right after Force Awakens came out. It was guaranteed for your second planet to be Jakku, and now it's Crate. Crate is the guaranteed second planet, at least for the next few months, if you go and ride yourself some Star Tours.
You get to go to the salt planet.
Yep. Where we zoom in on a guy, and he tastes the ground and says, salt.
This isn't Hoth, if anyone wasn't paying attention, because this is salt, okay? Just want to make that clear.
Yeah.
On to the next scene.
While we're on this, we didn't plan the show this way, but we probably should have. We should have just opened with everything we really, really didn't like about this movie, because I think all 3 of us really liked this movie.
Yeah, we could start negative.
I feel like the internet has that covered, though.
The internet does have that
covered.
covered.
And I had a very good conversation with both Len Peralta and my wife about things they didn't like. Now, both of them liked Last Jedi. They're not the people who are like, this movie's trash, don't see it. My wife's seen it twice, and she said the second time it got even better. But they definitely have, there are definitely legitimate things that are disappointing to people that aren't necessarily disappointing to me about, a lack of the lore moments that we had in Force Awakens, a feeling that we didn't really leave on a cliffhanger. And some people are like, how can you do that in the second act? Like, we didn't have a Hans and Carbonite and Luke just discovered Vader's his father moment here. And those are not important to me, but those are some of the criticisms that I think are legitimate from a certain point of view. Personally, the only 2 things that I really just did not like were Space Leia. And let me tell you, every time I've seen it, I'm always like, Space Leia, it's just weird. It's just weird every time that she's like, I'm flying now. Oh, and now I'm passed out. So I just feel like that could absolutely have been done in a way that ended up with her passed out, could even show some forceness without being so weird, like I'm floating through space. That bugged me. It did not even dent my feelings about the movie. The other thing I didn't like was the ending. Until tonight. The ending, I think, should have been Leia saying, "We have everything we need right here," and the shot of everybody on the Falcon. And I was like, I expected it to end the first time, and I'm like, that's it. What a great way to end this. And then they go to the kid with the broom and the little like, oh look, I've got a little force power with my sweeping, and I can hold it like a lightsaber. I'm like, what the heck is that? I don't even know what that is. I felt that way until tonight. I was sitting next to 3 kids, part of a big family, watching it very obviously for the first time by their reactions. And at the end, all 3 of them started going nuts. And one of them was like, oh my God, that was the best part. There is something more to that kid that I am going to have to research, because apparently he's mentioned in a Path to the Last Jedi book that made these kids incredibly excited. So I guess Rian Johnson knew what he was doing for some crowd.
Well, I hate to break it to all of us, but Star Wars is for kids.
No.
And
No. Star Wars is for everyone.
Yes, Star Wars is for everyone, but even though even though those first prequels get a stink on them for many well-deserved reasons, the idea that it was going back to a movie for kids still lingers, I think, in the Disney way of things. And I actually, from the very moment I saw that ending, loved it, because to me it was all about like every single time Ahsoka Tano goes off to find little Force kids, or every time they mention like there's people out there all over the world or the universe that have Force powers. Like, to me, that was a Legends moment. That was a moment where we're going to go back to finding Force sensitive kids. And I just loved it.
I have nothing against the scene. It is my least favorite thing in the entire movie that was the ending. If they had bookended Canto Bight with that would have been fine. Like, I didn't
mind the kids in the stables and all of that. That was cool. I loved all that, and I'm with you, Garrett. I didn't mind the scene itself so much as the fact that that's how they ended it.
Yeah, it just felt so ham-fisted to me as a takedown to midichlorians, and I don't. But like
apparently, these kids were like, that was the best way to end the movie of the world. So what do I know?
It felt so tacked on to me. I'm just like, just relocate this scene.
You know what it was? It was a mid-credit end scene, and they don't do that in Star Wars movies, so they tacked it on the actual end of the movie. That is something I would have been delighted to see in the middle of the credits.
Totally. I 100% agree with you there.
I didn't want to start this show with like salty quips, but I'm going to say, you know what else they don't do in Star Wars? Flashbacks, and they did it anyway because it was the right thing for the story. And you know what else they do in Star Wars is put scenes in the right places, and that scene was not in the right place.
Yeah, they sort of did a flashback in Force Awakens for the first time ever, with Rey's vision, and her seeing herself as a young girl and her parents flying away. But yeah, we got full on like 3 takes on a flashback this time. That was cool.
Yeah, that is true. This is the first one where it was just like no attempt to cover it up, as in we're going to include this in the Force vision, so it doesn't feel like it. And this one they were just like and flashback because we just need to do it. So I thought it was fine. But so okay, around the table, all of us pretty stellar Star Wars movie in our opinions.
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah, it was amazing. I love that it subverted my expectations at every turn. That just when I thought I knew what was going to happen and was okay with it, I was like, oh, okay, so this is when, Finn and Rose will pull us out. Oh, no, they won't. And again, I know some people are like, the Finn and Rose story ended up not being important. I'm like, sure, they didn't end up saving the day, but you don't know that. So it is important because you think that's their only hope. And when they fail, you're like, how are they going to get out of this? And I love that feeling again of like, I don't know what's going to happen next.
Yeah, it's another twist in a movie full of twists. But I mean, kind of. Jenny?
I was going to say, I loved it because it took me until the second time to really fully realize this. That whole plot line is about failing. And it's all about what Yoda said to Luke. It's all about you learn from failure. And they made a whole third. And like, I was one of the people who on the first viewing was like, this Canto Bight seems like a blah, blah, blah distraction. And then I heard Yoda's speech again, because literally the first time I didn't hear a thing. So I was just like, Yoda, 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 Yoda. And I was like so excited. But thematically, it is one of the most resonant parts of the whole. Everything in this movie is about failure and continuing to fail and continuing to go on.
Yeah. Pass along what you've learned. Failure most of all, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's Poe's whole deal.
Yeah.
And you're seeing Poe learn to be the leader, and it's almost too on the nose when Leia says, "What are you looking at me for? Follow him." Right? Yeah. If you're thinking about it that way, you're like, "Oh, well, yeah, no, very obviously you are passing the torch right there."
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So we're gonna do our best, I guess, to kind of go general plot point by general plot point, and we'll move along. So let's kick it off. The beginning of this darn movie, guys. We have the Resistance evacuating their main base, which already kicked off with a surprise to me because I saw so much of Crate. I just assumed they would have already been moved to Crate by the time we get into this movie, and then I remember, oh no, this is the first Star Wars movie where we're picking up immediately after the last one left off. So that's just me being dumb, but yeah, the shot of Star Destroyers coming out of hyperspace above the atmosphere of the planet, I'm just like, yes, great. Poe showing up in his X-Wing and fighting the Dreadnought, and BB-8 getting slammed back in his seat as they boost ahead. I mean, that was really fun, and then it became the most intense war movie Star Wars has ever done, even though last year we got a full-length Star Wars war movie.
Yeah, go ahead, Tom. Holy
I was
cow.
just going to say that Dreadnought was crazy stuff. I almost feel bad that it was blown up so quick and we never see anything like it again, because that was some amazing stuff.
It was my favorite. Yep. I think it was my favorite vehicle design in the whole movie. I still don't think I like Snoke's ship. It's just too ridiculous.
Well, it comes from somewhere else. It seems very clear that Snoke's ship, to me, does not look like it was designed in the Empire ethos. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, Star Destroyers are still Star Destroyers. Even the Dreadnought kind of is. But that Snoke ship, the quick glance we got at it looked like a little less in the design book. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. But
I definitely...
Did you guys see, P.S., who was the communications person on Hux's ship? Did you catch that? The woman sitting at the console?
No.
It was Liza Aaron from Game of Thrones, a sort of thin-faced woman who was talking to Hux right in the beginning. It's Liza Aaron.
Oh. Yeah, no,
yeah.
I missed that entirely.
More Game of Thrones people in Star Wars.
Oh, Lisa. Yeah. Yes.
I forget her actor name.
In the Eyrie.
Yeah.
Right.
From the Eyrie, Liza Aaron. And Caitlyn's sister. It's really cool. Anyway, side note. I know it's more of our world than their world, but I loved Poe Dameron's sassing Hux. I loved it. And I know people disagree, but I am all for space jokes.
Here's the thing. I don't mind funny. It was funny. And Poe is set up to talk that way in the first episode when he goes, how's this work? Do you talk first or I talk first? Like, he is that guy who's like, I'm not going to respect the conventions here. So to me, it was just like an extension of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it didn't. I think there are a few points in this movie where something I think just maybe went one note too far, and overall, it didn't bother me. And Poe's sass to Hux, I loved. I think it went on maybe one. Okay, holding for hugs. Too many. I think it just went.
Oh, really? See, I didn't get that.
Loved it.
I felt like that it went exactly right. If anything bothers me about that scene, I'm gonna push my glasses up my nose here. It's like, why did he need to delay? Just so he could go fast? Like.
Yeah, it was something about boosting up or
I don't quite catch the need for the delay, but
I'm gonna push up.
Funny.
I'm gonna push up my glasses because I'm a vehicle nerd. He had an extra booster, like literally taped onto the back of his X-wing that was not part of a normal X-wing, not even Black One. His special X-wing. It had a center rocket that you could, if you look at that shot again, you can see extraneous crap. So it was bolted on. So I'm assuming he had to break atmosphere before he could start charging it up. If he broke atmosphere, he shows up on their scanners. So he had to buy some time.
That's awesome.
Maybe.
And now I'm defending
Can we talk
something
about the
I thought
bombers and how awesome they were?
Yeah, I remember seeing the design of them in the trailer and thinking they looked really dumb. And I still don't love the design of them, but I don't care, because this was one of the most moving battle sequences in Star Wars history.
And it was so great to just start right into a battle. Now, like even Empire, you don't start right with the battle, right? You lead up to it, and just I guess Revenge of the Sith starts right with a battle.
Yes,
right?
Revenge of the Sith.
But that's it.
Is the only and I remember.
But it was cheerful. It was a cheerful, weirdly cheerful battle.
Well,
Yeah.
In Revenge
Because
of
they
the
were
Sith.
rescuing the Chancellor.
Yeah.
I don't know why that's
But-
cheerful, but yeah.
Yeah.
Buzz droids.
But this was like, so it's almost like when they established the mood in Rogue One, they were able to carry over that move into other into other movies, because it was like, yes, it's not a shock to have realistic depictions of a battle in a Star Wars movie, because we did that last year. So I thought that was kind of like a good way that Rogue One's spirit carried over.
Now,
Yeah.
Garrett, here's another one for you to solve. Why did the bombs drop?
Because it's Star Wars, and they will write some type of who knows what rule as to why. There's probably a shield in the ship that you don't see. I was actually, the first thing that bothered me, not even the bombs dropping, it was that there's an open door below them and no one's getting sucked out into space.
Yeah.
So
that too.
in my head, I'm like, the bombers probably have shield tech that actually creates a vacuum so that the people don't get sucked out
Well,
of the bomb.
that's like the docking ports, have a shield so that the air doesn't get out, but the ships can permeate it.
Yeah, but they have the blue
But yeah,
glow.
I guess
on the,
each bomb has a tiny thruster on it.
we'll just
Or it's just an accelerant. Maybe they did like the way they do space jumps in Star Trek is like
Yeah.
you get a push out the door and maybe that's enough.
that is
maybe,
that is
maybe
a good point.
it's just something at the top that just goes
Like,
poof, like a plunger.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, this is so funny because it's Star Wars, and we're debating bombs dropping in space in a movie where there's sound and fire in the
Yeah.
vacuum of space. But I mean, if you have pilots walking around in that bomb room on those catwalks and they're being pulled down to the ground of the catwalk like there's gravity, then there must be some sort of artificial gravity in the ship already. So
Sure.
you could make the argument that there's a shield barrier on that exit.
Real bad design to have your detonator, your bomb button be on a remote control though. That should be active.
Yeah.
You should be able to activate that from more than one place.
Yeah, or
That was
or
weird.
put a droid on those ships.
yeah.
Because we've never seen droids on ships that can do things when their pilot is in trouble.
Busy.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, it was definitely like they got those at the discount bomber lot. For
and that-
sure. They're like the
resistance,
bad.
man. Yeah, they're scraping by. They can't afford
Yeah.
the luxury items.
That's right. They got the ones that were designed at like, cost plus, I don't know. Anyway, on to the second minute of the movie.
Yeah, we're not going to go minute by minute through
Yeah,
this stuff.
yeah.
We're just going to jump scene by scene, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, more or less.
One thing I think is great is, again, this is Garrett saying this begins Poe's arc. Like Poe Dameron was like they literally spent a whole movie in the previous movie making Poe Dameron an amazing flyboy, win at all costs, invincible guy, and then they just spend this whole movie just tearing him down, and I love it, love it.
Yeah. But it's still fun. They still
Yeah.
manage to make it relatively fun.
And it's in his best interest. I mean, that scene where Holdo and Leia talk about how much they like him because of his spirit, like made whatever tiny misgiving. I'm like, wow, they are kind of really treating him like crap. Like I get it. He disobeyed an order, but I'm like, oh, they're doing it on purpose. This is training, right? These are commanders who know what they're doing. I almost forget that Leia particularly is the old guard, right?
Yeah.
She's in charge. She's experienced. She knows how to get the young bucks in line, and that's how you do it with
Yeah.
him.
And I mean, I went into this movie, and I can't even remember where I read it, but I think it was a point by Rian Johnson saying that Leia sees Poe as a future leader. So I feel I was cheating going in knowing that, so I'm watching this with this like pre-knowledge that like, oh, well, yeah, I know Leia wants him to be a leader, so she's going to be teaching him some lessons.
No one else is left, so yeah, it's him. Like he's in charge.
Yeah, yeah. Although she gets on his case before everybody dies.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's which is good because at least it kind of puts that in there. But yeah, I mean the dreadnought going down, that was great. The whole the bombing sequence, the pilot who we don't even know the name of, who doesn't say a word, dying, and I cared about that nameless character that I've never met in the Star Wars universe.
You mean Paige?
Yeah. We don't learn her name till later.
Yeah,
at
yeah,
that
till
point,
later,
at that
yeah.
point, I think they may have called out her name at some point, but it goes so fast that
Yeah.
you would have to already know it to really catch it.
I certainly did not pick up on it. within the beginning of the movie, and didn't remember it until I still don't. Jenny just said the name. I don't remember it.
Wow. Paige does not stick with you.
Sorry.
I thought it was a lovely moment. It was just like really, and also it was a nice reminder that amulet looked very Force religion-y, and it's like a reminder that the Force, like, the Skywalkers have the Force, and it's like big deal, but it actually means something to a lot of people in the galaxy. Like, it's not just a thing
it's got historic. Yeah.
Yeah, it's got like, it's like, you know, it's really interesting. Anyway.
Well, it's referred to as a religion multiple times in Star Wars.
Yeah.
So, and
a hokey old religion.
yeah. And I mean, we opened Force Awakens with Lars Santeca, who's supposed to be like this kind of priestly figure within a group of Force worshippers that aren't Jedi. Although they don't really get into that, I guess, in the movie. It's all, now I know it, but whatever the case is. So then, you know, everybody is the Resistance escapes through hyperspace. We learn that Snoke, or at least the First Order, has the tech now to track ships through hyperspace, and I remember like being in the theater, I'm like, okay, that's cool. I did not think it was going to be such a pivotal plot point for this movie. And this is probably I don't know, ammo from our good friend Jeff Canada, who says never watch trailers, but I saw so much crate. I'm like, oh, they're just gonna make it a crate eventually, and that'll be our holdout. Like, no, the majority of this movie is like the never-ending ship chase.
Yeah. And that again is, I think, one of the reasons some people who didn't like it felt like we didn't really get a lot of story. We didn't get a lot of lore-oriented story because it's just machinations trying to get away. But on the same token, I love that because I could not tell how they were going to get away. As soon as, and when he said we've got them on a string, I'm like, what does that mean? And then they kind of throw you a red herring by showing you the tracker that Rey and Leia have. And on my first viewing, I'm like, oh, did they hack into that? Is that how they know where they are? But no, it turns out they've just got a way to track people through hyperspace, which means you can't get away, and they're running out of fuel. And this is suddenly a World War II movie about the submarine that's trying to get away and limping. And what are they possibly going to do? They're entirely trapped. And there's no escape. There is no possible way they can escape, right? Yeah. And yet they do.
And well,
or at least some of them do.
Very
not
few
without cost.
them.
That's the other thing, is not all of them get out.
Almost none of them get out. I mean, is enough to barely fill the Falcon at the end of this movie.
Yeah.
Yo, by the end. Yeah.
Wait, can we talk for just 1 second about Disco Snoke?
Like, I was calling him Pimp Snoke, but okay, go for it.
Yeah, gold robed, sort of a louche, like flowy motion Disco Snoke, about whom we learn absolutely nothing.
Now this is one of the main reasons people are mad who wanted lore, because they have, and we're among them, who've been like, who is he? Where is he from? Is he Darth Plagueis? Is he somebody else? What's going on? Is he a reincarnation? And Disco Snoke, kind of puts that in your face, like, okay, he's somebody. Look at this room, and he's got this group of attendants who are very Imperial Guard like he has to be somebody. I was sitting there looking at him for clues. That entire first scene where we see him in the throne room, and he has such presence and malevolence, and I was so wrong. I kept insisting, like, I don't think he has force powers. I think he's a pretender. Oh no, he got damn fine force powers. Like, he's got super emperor-like force powers. Oh, God, he was bad.
When Hux is like, I'll take the call in my chambers, and giant Snoke hologram shows up and slams his ass on the floor and drags him around, just like, oh my God. Like, yeah, because I was 100% in your boat, Tom, and we apparently have drowned. That was a bad boat to be in. But I didn't think he had force powers either. And the trailers started to kind of soften me on that because of the shot of Rey.
I thought that was a fake out.
I thought there was room for it, but also just the way it's shot. I mean, why would you shoot that with Snoke in frame if Snoke wasn't the one? I don't know, but
Kylo was doing it, but
no, he wasn't. Shaky. Yeah. No, it was good. It was some. This really sold me on Snoke, man. I did not care about Snoke going into this. I enjoy a good theory discussion about anything in Star Wars, even stuff I find relatively disinteresting, including Snoke. But in Force Awakens, I thought he was the weakest thing in it. I hated the CG. I hated the design. It looked like another cave troll from Lord of the Rings to me. And we
and wriggling.
Yeah. Yeah, and in this movie, I don't know what the hell they did because he looks more or less the same, but the CG looks so much better in this movie. He looks like he's in the room.
Yeah, he looks like Gollum in a robe with a head dent.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. He was very Gollum-like.
Well, I
He
mean,
was very Gollum-like,
it is
but
Andy
like
Serkis.
cooler. Like if Gollum came from Brooklyn.
Cool Gollum.
Yeah. Hipster Gollum.
He just
Hipster
rolls up.
Gollum with his gold robes.
Yeah.
Snoke
and his
drives.
like cool dudes in the background, his hipster friends who all dress alike.
Yeah, they all break dance.
Snoke definitely drives
But-
an old Cadillac, an old white Cadillac.
Yeah, absolutely. But it was important to see. And you know what? It was funny when we were at this giant Star Wars party that we threw, that we all went and saw the movie together. Afterwards, we were with a bunch of like, hypercritical writer types, and they were busy savaging the movie. And one of them said something that was sort of like a dig, but I took it in a different way, which is when you see these unexplained things happening in the movies, like Snoke, who is he? Where does he come from? Why aren't we learning this? They called it the whole movie an Amazon wish list, like because everything threaded off to things you would buy in the near future. Like a book about Snoke or a book about this. And that's a valid point. But the way I actually think about it is, look, you have to find a way these days to make movies bigger than just the movies, because TV is so good and it's so hard to compete with that one of the things you do is say, okay, the movie's the overview, the movie's the big map. Here are all the threads that go off into this other media that will be the book about Snoke and the book about this and the book about that. So I really feel like in 3 months we're going to get a pre-order called Snoke.
Maybe they may still have revelations for 9 about Snoke, even though he's dead. That they don't want to reveal until after 9 comes out.
What if he's a worm and he can regrow?
I could see it go in both ways. Yeah, maybe he's not gone. I do think that one of the things Rian Johnson really wanted to do is subvert your expectations every time. And so when you're in that throne room, and I know we're jumping around in the story, but we've all seen it, and these are just important threads to follow to their end, I think. When you're in that throne room and he is saying that Kylo is going to, kill you, Rey, he's going to strike you down, and you see Luke's or Anakin's saber twitch, you know that Kylo is now going to try to kill Snoke. You don't know if it's going to work. You don't know if it really means he's turning. And so when he actually kills Snoke, I was shocked. I was like, no, you can't kill Snoke. He was going to stop that. Like, I was expecting that to not go the way I thought, and it went the way I thought, which is not the way I thought it would go, because I thought that was the way it was going to go. Like, he played me. I think a lot of people felt cheated by that, because they're like, wait, we invested so much in Snoke and wondering who Snoke is, and now he's gone. But Rian Johnson has a great explanation of why that is, as far as building Kylo's character. And my theory is what they're trying to do is set the table for 9 to be like, this isn't a story that is based on the other 8. Those are all wrapped now. This is a very clear story in 9 about Rey versus Kylo, light versus dark, and that is going to be the battle. That is what 9 is going to be. And if you have Snoke around, if you have Luke around, it's just a bunch of old ghostly men, getting in the way, like getting and distracting from that. And so I think if you didn't like Last Jedi, you probably will have to wait until after 9 to decide if you really didn't like it or you just were kind of tricked. And I thought about this earlier today as well. When Kylo kills Snoke and goes back to back with Rey, I was both cheering and disappointed, because I'm like, if this is real, if he really just turned, there's no story left. Like, how could you do that, right? And that's the way people feel about Snoke being killed. They're like, now that Snoke's gone, what's up with that? That just ended that story. But we find out if we keep watching the Kylo Rey battle that, Kylo hadn't turned. He was using Rey to get to be Supreme Leader, which is a much more interesting place to be in. And I think that may be in the grander scale where killing Snoke gets us to a much more interesting place. We just didn't get there in this movie yet.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
I'm with you. I do want to. I will say though is I think this movie is more well balanced than that. I've seen it mentioned multiple times, not just by you, Tom, that this movie is good because it constantly subverts expectations, and it absolutely does. But I also think it goes and it does things it absolutely had to do. There are certain things that happen in Last Jedi that I think many people saw coming a mile away. All year, no, sorry, for 2 years since Force Awakens, I've been saying they're not going to kill Luke. They're not going to do it. It's too predictable. He has to die. He's problematic from passing on the torch perspective. He's problematic in a power level perspective. They just killed Han. They're not going to kill a major old character in all three of these trilogies because it would become too predictable. But I think I was saying that because A, I really didn't want to watch Luke die, and B, because it has to happen. You have to kill Luke. So when it happened, I wasn't surprised.
The way they did it was perfect.
Yeah.
He died putting out an effort to save the Resistance. He didn't die like a normal person. He died like Obi-Wan. He died like Yoda, which definitely means Mark Hamill can be a 9. We are going. I'm pretty sure we're going to see a Force Ghost Luke.
I think so too. And we better finally get my Anakin Darth Vader ghost talking to Kylo, or I'm rioting. I still wanted that so bad.
Listen here,
in this
buddy.
movie.
I think you've got it all wrong. I was a good guy for most of my life, and then I was a good guy at the very end of my life, and you're just misinterpreting a very narrow slice of my life.
Focusing on my worst years.
Yeah, my wife died. I had a bad time of it, Thought my kids were dead. Instead, they're over there. I wouldn't mind seeing an armada of Force Ghosts come back in 9, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. I think we're up to the point where Kylo attacks actually the fleet, the Resistance. God, I want to call them a rebellion. The Resistance fleet.
Yeah, I keep calling it the rebellion,
which leads to the most controversial moment, I think, in this movie.
Yes. So, I mean, first of all, trailer gave this away. I remember watching the trailer being like, I wonder if he actually doesn't fire. And it actually plays out exactly like it does in the trailer, except 2 seconds later, 2 TIE fighters go right past Kylo and blow the living hell out of her bridge anyway.
Yeah.
I thought the trailer was trying to make us think that he would kill her, and in fact, he would shoot but miss. And she would survive, and none of those things happened. He didn't fire at all. Somebody else did, and she got blowed up into space.
Yeah. And I was watching this, and I'm watching Leia's body in the vacuum of space float around and turn frosty, and thinking to myself, well, I know they didn't rewrite this. They said they weren't going to go back to the cutting room floor after Carrie Fisher passed away. They said that they had plans for Leia in the next movie. Somehow she gets out of this. How the hell does that happen? And then it dawned on me moments before her eyes opened up. I'm like, damn it, this is when we're going to see her Force powers.
Yeah.
And then,
Rian Johnson said, look, or someone in EW said, look, basically, in moments of stress is when your latent Force powers turn into active Force powers. And that's consistent across all sort of my magical powers were revealed tropes, right? Like they first surface when, like X-Men, they surface when you're under threat.
Unless you're a stable boy.
Yeah, unless you're a stable
then
boy.
you're just...
Then they just happen while you're sweeping.
That was one magical broom sweep away from me burning Disney down.
Oh, come on, guys. Get over it. It was cute. Anyway, back to the first minute of the movie. It was rough. There's no way around it because, it wasn't even just she finally used a traditional Force power and we're like, yeah, sure, it's been, 20 odd years since. It makes absolute sense for her to be able to pull something across the room or whatever. But for her to basically reel herself in like a fish in the vacuum of space. And I'm sorry, but like when you get sucked out of a bridge, honest to God, really your lungs? I'm sorry, I'm getting too literal, but like, wouldn't your lungs do that thing where they just like expel all the air?
I mean, unless you've got force lungs.
Right. But now you're talking about superhero stuff.
Well, and that's what's so bothersome is they could have had I'm just going to rewrite this off the top of my head. The bridge explodes. Everyone is pulled into space except Leia, who actually gets caught on a beam right by the door and is freezing. But you see a shimmer around her, and she is like auto-protecting herself with a force bubble. So you get that like, oh, she does have that force power. And then Poe and everyone race there, open the door, pull her in, and she's passed out. And it's not weird. It still gets across the like, oh, force under in a time of stress appearance. And it doesn't have to be like, well, how come she was able to open her eyes and fly through the air, but then she's passed out for the next day?
Right. It was just like there were too many new. It's like bananas on bananas. It's like one thing if she's a force user, an active force user, even if she grabbed like a piece of the deck with the force and it pulled her in, whatever it is.
Yeah, totally.
But Star Wars has always been a boots on the ground, always. Even with its mythic and magic characters, it is a boots on the ground kind of movie. Things are real, things are dirty, things are practical, right? People swing laser swords, and the most they ever do is move rocks, right? And so it's just hard to see. Nobody ever flies, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And that looked like flying.
Well, if flying is what bugs you, that doesn't bother me at all because it's in the vacuum of space, and if you were to force pull or force push, it would do the same thing. Yeah, I know, you
go somewhere. But the visual of it is so out of line.
She was actually
what we know.
Force pulling
the
ship to her. We just saw it in reverse perspective.
Yeah. I mean, look, if there's a force pull, you can have a force push. It's not so hard.
I guess so,
yeah. But it just like, I guess visually, it was a lot. And look, I love Princess Leia, and I did not want her to be sucked out of the vacuum of space, and that was it. But it violated your sense of visual norm.
I agree. I think there just would have been a cooler way to shoot it at the end of the day. I think just the kind of on the nose shot of action figure Leia in action pose pulling herself in. It was too ridiculous. I would have rather have just had a shot of the open damage to the ship from the inside and just see her force pull herself in like out of frame or something. I think that would have worked a little better in my mind than the tracking shot on flying Leia. It was just strange. It just looked weird, I think, is at the end of the day. I like the concept a lot. Obviously the last episode I was like, I better see Leia use some force powers. I obviously wanted
you did
cooler use of force
Careful
powers.
What you wish for, Garrett.
But yeah, exactly. But also, maybe she did die, and maybe she's as powerful as Darth Plagueis and influenced.
You think she was a Force ghost the whole way through?
No. I'm saying, according to Palpatine, Darth Plagueis could influence. Please redact midichlorians to create life.
Oh, right. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, who knows?
Interesting.
Who cares?
You said the M word.
I can't invoke the quote without saying it.
Yeah.
Sadly.
I have a bone to pick with you, though, Garrett, in your notes, your really nice notes for this podcast. And I'm just going to read them because it pertains to my friend Finn, in which you wrote, Finn is still a coward.
He is.
And I would dispute that ever so slightly.
No, he is still a coward. He's a coward in The Force Awakens, and in this movie, he wakes up and he is unchanged. He is still the Finn in Force Awakens because he was in a coma. He wakes up and he is still coward Finn. The only
He's
thing
carrying the beacon.
Yeah, he's running to save.
He's
Rey.
running to save Rey.
He's not running. I think you're partly right, Garrett. I think he is still afraid and wants to get away from the First Order because he is traumatized by them. But he's not just running away this time. He has a good excuse to run away.
I'm not disputing any of that, but it's still cowardice. I think he's justifying it in his own head because he's going to save his friend, but in reality, he is running away from the bigger fight, just like he ran away from the bigger fight in Force Awakens. The only thing,
but it's not all cowardice. That's all.
No. But my point here is this is the beginning of his arc. The beginning of his arc is we see coward Finn one last time when he's trying to get into that escape pod. And then,
it's very clear at the end of this movie when Luke is giving his speech and he says, the war is just beginning, and he shows Poe, and he says the rebellion is reborn, and he shows Poe. The war is just beginning, and he shows Finn, and the Jedi are not over, and they show Rey. I mean, Finn's the general. Finn is going to be the general that leads the army, and Poe is going to be the leader of the rebellion. And of course, Rey is the Jedi Master. Like it's very much, again, almost on the nose. Like, here's what's gonna happen.
Right. So I'm not insulting the character of Finn. I'm just saying this is where he's at the beginning, and he needed to be there. And Canto Bite had to happen to get us the Finn at the end of this movie that almost dies trying to save everybody.
Yeah. No, exactly. He goes a little overboard, right? And it's like, dude, you're not taking out that big cannon by flying into it. You're just killing yourself.
I am with our chat room. I don't know when the hell he learned how to fly anything, since he needed a pilot so bad in Force Awakens.
Well, apparently Rose, the engineer, could fly too. So, and those things must have been simple to fly.
I feel like maybe anybody can fly in this universe. It's sort of like driving a car.
Yeah, but his plot point
those
in
things
Force
maybe, yeah.
But the plot point
because they were speeders. They weren't spaceships.
I get fair enough. Well,
we know stormtroopers can ride speeders, although not very well.
Yeah. And they had BB-8 with them too, so I guess even BB-8 could have just flown the ship that got them the Canto Bite.
P.S. BB-8, unacknowledged hero of the whole movie. BB-8 saves more people than anybody else in this movie.
I believe he has just been acknowledged then.
Yeah, he's my favorite character.
BB-8 is BB great.
He is a Mary Sue droid. I'll put it to you that way. That droid could do anything.
I mean, I'm sure it bothers some people, but most of us don't care. We're like, yeah, he's BB-8 though. Of course he can.
BB-8, he's awesome. He's a ball with lots of things inside of him. Like, anyway.
R2-D2 was the Deus Ex Machina of the original trilogy, so it doesn't bother me at all. It's just, of course, there's something R2 can interface with in a convenient grasp at all times. Of course, now he has jets, even though it's the past, and he should have less technology than he did in the original films. It happens.
BB-8 saves people 3 times in this movie, at least. It's just great.
All right, let's talk Octu. We gotta talk Octu. We pick up, first of all, oh my God, the stones on this movie to wait until this long into the film to show us Rey interacting with Luke. And I loved, and I just want to watch it on repeat, Luke tossing that lightsaber over his damn shoulder.
That's when Rian Johnson comes out and goes, this is the kind of movie you're getting, folks.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Let me just tell you right now. Like, yeah, we had a great space battle to warm you up, okay? But this is what this movie is going to be like. I almost feel like it's a little bit of an FU to JJ. Like, there's a couple times in this movie where he's like, oh, big deal with the lightsaber? Yeah, screw that. That's not what this is going to be about. Burn down the old. Leave the old behind. Kill all the old things. Like, that phrase is said so many times. I'm like, who are you talking to, Ryan?
There's 100%.
The guy who's doing the next movie.
Yeah, there's 100% multiple FUs to JJ, but I think it's fun. I think it's kind of... I think it's winking to itself. It's like, JJ, I know what you had to do with Force Awakens.
Yeah.
Now I want to take the gloves off and let's do something new. And
and by the way, I killed Snoke. Good luck.
But it makes sense. Like minutes later, when you talk to Luke, when Luke finally starts speaking, you realize the Luke that we're seeing. It makes sense that he would just chuck that lightsaber off over his shoulder. We find out later he had another lightsaber. Actually, it bothers me. More on that in a second. Remind me why flashback Luke's lightsaber bothers me. But he doesn't have a lightsaber anymore. He got rid of it. He doesn't believe in any of this. He thinks he's a failure. He thinks every Jedi that ever came before him is a failure. And that lightsaber has brought nothing good to the universe. It has killed children. It lost him his hand. Chuck it over that shoulder.
No, I think grumpy old Luke took some getting used to for me, because I'm like, okay, yes, I can see Luke later being this. It's not the Luke we all grew to love, but it makes more sense that he would be like this. And they give us 3 takes on the Kylo story, so that you get, your unreliable narrators three ways, served 3 ways. So you kind of get an idea of what really happened, and you get why Luke did it, because he was scared that Kylo was going to turn and he couldn't stop him. And it's Snoke's fault, but it's also Kylo's fault, but it's also Luke's fault. Right? Snoke is the one that stoked Kylo's darkness. Kylo is the one who gave into his own darkness, and Luke was the one who feared the darkness too much and failed. So that it took all 3 combined, and I think Rey's right in that, Luke just failed by thinking he had already made his choice when Kylo hadn't made his choice. Kylo is angry, and it stoked his anger and his turn to the dark side because he thought that Luke turned against him at a time when he probably needed him more than ever. And so I get why Luke would be like, I am awful. Like, pretty much everything I touch dies. I fluked out into saving my dad at the last moment, but that's pretty much it. I haven't done anything else good. And so I'm out of here. I'm checking out. And no, I'm ready to die here. Don't come back and try to drag me into the fight. I'm not that guy anymore. That would have bothered me if that's all we got. What I loved is in 2 moments with Yoda and with Leia, we saw the old Luke. We got a chance for Luke for the years to fall away, and Luke, and even actually with R2, you got to see a little of the old Luke poke through, the innocent Luke, and you're like, okay, he's still in there. That's still
and
him.
with Chewie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mark Hamill was so good in this. I'm angry his character's dead at the end. I know we can see a Force Ghost at some point, but it's not the same. Like, just old, prickly, Kung Fu master at the top of the mountain Luke it's so good. And you're right, every time that we see old Luke come through, it was not something I expected. And it was so effective. Because, and also at the same time, I feel like we probably shouldn't be that surprised by this Luke, because in the original trilogy, we get a different Luke in every movie. In the first one,
sure,
he's farm boy cocksure Luke. In Empire, we get like frightened and terrified Luke, who makes every decision based on fear. And then in the third one, we have this like religious zealot hero Luke, who throws his lightsaber down the Death Star and says, I am a Jedi like my father before me. And then we see him on Octu, and he couldn't seem further away from that. Like, he's not going to speak the word Jedi with any reverence.
And and I love that he has come to the conclusion that the Jedi weren't right, that they were hypocrites, that some of those things that Palpatine, aka Darth Sidious, which we hear Luke say the words Darth Sidious, which is kind of weird. That the things that he used to turn Anakin were truths. They weren't the whole truths, but they were truths. And Luke's trying to get across to Rey is like, the Jedi don't own the Force. You don't need us. We are, the Jedi, it's time for them to die because we are a failure, and I'm a failure, and I'm an example of why the Jedi are wrong. And if you look back, all the Jedi did was screw stuff up. So learn that the Force doesn't belong to them. It belongs to everyone. And I think what's going to happen is that seed is planted in Rey, and she's going to take the best of the Jedi and the best of that idea into that next movie.
I thought the explanation of the Force in this movie was hands down one of the best that's ever been in the movie. Like, it was just simple and effective, and they weren't afraid to use like cutaway visuals, which was crazy. That's never been really done. And I just loved it because it was someone who has come out the other end of a lot of stuff. And it was a beautiful description, and it was simple. And the idea of like 3 lessons that you could explain the Force in just like 3 lessons, I thought was a great concept. And it turned out the 3rd lesson was something very different. But I will get to that in a second. I want to take a quick moment to detour back to our predictions show and just say I have a 50% correct prediction, which is I predicted that at some point Chewbacca was going to bust in and yell at Luke for being a jerk. And he did. Yeah. It just wasn't the way I thought it was going to be. But I loved that moment because, of course, it would take someone he knew right? And a big 7-foot tall Wookiee.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree. This is the best explanation of the Force since Obi-Wan in A New Hope.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. I mean, what the hell is this going up against? Qui-Gon and his midichlorian rant?
Yeah.
Kill me quickly.
Just,
I like the prequels.
You keep saying that word.
There's a lot of good writing in this movie, which I think is underrated in the beginning because like so much else is happening. Like I had to go see this movie again the second time because the first time I was just like I couldn't focus. I was just so excited to have a Star Wars movie, but man, especially like we're coming up on the Yoda scene, like holy gods, there's some beautiful writing.
I was so overwhelmed throughout this whole film. I felt out of breath. And that typically happens for me, like with extremely heavy action films, like Fury Road comes to mind. It's like a movie I just felt like I could never catch up to what was happening in the movie. And this is the first time where I was like, there's huge breaks between action in this film. And I felt like I was just barely keeping up because of the story and the character development that was happening in front of me.
Yeah. I have to say I love pretty much everything that happens on Octo, with maybe a little mixed feelings about Rey's dip down into the underworld. But yeah. I love the Force tree and the fact that man, Rey, she hears voices. That girl hears voices a lot. I love that the entire Jedi wisdom was 6 books. And that Yoda tricks Luke into thinking they've been burned. How Force Yoda can burn a tree is new to me, but okay. He's able to call lightning. I'm curious why he didn't do that before in other situations, but whatever. And he's like, Rey has everything she needs, literally meaning she's got the books.
That was a great little thing. It took me a second viewing to see.
Yeah,
like,
the same here.
All right, what do we want to focus on? Do we want to focus on Yoda right now, or do we want to focus on Seaweed Darkhole?
Oh yeah, the sunken place.
Let's talk Seaweed Darkhole and then get back to the rest of Yoda. Yeah.
Okay, all right, yeah, because I'm in the same boat.
Yeah.
Why did we have this scene? Why is this in the movie?
Yeah, the worst that the dark side of the Force could do to Rey was like disappoint her.
And it doesn't even. Kylo disappoints her more by speaking to her than the dark side of the Force does by manipulating her vision.
Like what? What is going on there?
Okay, so I love that she immediately gets pulled to the dark side and Luke gets scared and is like, "You are full of darkness, and you didn't even fight it." Because we're all like, "Oh, Rey, she's sweetness and light. She's all positivity. She's innocence and wonderful." And it's like, "Ooh, that girl's got some darkness in her." I love that. Then she goes down into that hole to, that is her, moment in the tree in Dagobah. I'm sort of in on the idea of the dark side is not going to give her the answer she wants because that's the dark side, right? And it's going to want to twist her and make her angry.
Yeah.
But man, that's a long way. That's a long road to go just for that. To give me all the snapping rays and then to try to trick me like, here's 2 people. They're your parents. Oh, wait, it's only one person. We'll show you one of your parents. Oh, look, it's just you.
I don't know. I felt like Rian Johnson, like that day, remembered that David Lynch turned down Return of the Jedi and was just like, I'm just gonna throw in a Lynchian moment.
Yeah, I again, like kind of like Space Leia, he's playing mystical differently than I would want personally. I also think there's more to it than that, though. I know you guys disagree with me because we've talked about it on text message, but I think Kylo Ren was lying to her when he said your parents were drunks and they're in a grave on Jakku. So he was manipulating her into thinking that because that's her greatest fear, and she's willing to say it because she went to the dark side, and the dark side used her fear against her by saying, "Yeah, we're not even going to show you your parent." What I'm even crazier theory is that the reason they showed her when she said, "Show me my parents," is that she's a clone.
Ooh.
Whoa.
I like that way better than she's another Force-conceived baby like Anakin. Because I've seen that thrown around. I'm like, no.
Don't say that word.
Let's never go back to that, please.
Huh.
But, okay, I like the clone better. All right.
But a clone of whom?
I don't know.
It's irrelevant. Well, I mean, it would become relevant, but Maybe she's a clone of a very force powerful human that we have yet to be made aware of.
Yeah, maybe Palpatine was cloning an ancient Sith. I don't know.
That would explain her instant pull to the dark side when she started, communing with the Force in her meditation with Luke, and he got all freaked
maybe
out.
She's a female, like a clone of Palpatine that lost a Y chromosome. I don't know.
Eventually, we'll bring this back to Yoda, but you have now invoked her parentage and Kylo using that against her after the big fight scene. And so this is one of my biggest issues with the movie is I feel it has mixed messages. The whole movie seems to think it is so important that it should be the last scene, even though it undercuts everything that happens before it, that its big message is to bring the Force back to everybody, that anyone, even a stable hand, a farm boy, whoever, can become a Jedi randomly. Yeah. That lineage is unimportant to being born Force sensitive. And Kylo Ren telling Rey that her parents were nobodies supports that movement by Rian Johnson in this film. But the dark side vision by Rey, not just showing random, vagabonds on the streets of Jakku, doesn't. It throws a monkey wrench. It still leaves the question in my mind.
Yeah, it's a little disappointing in the fact that it just didn't answer anything, right? Yeah. I mean, when you see Luke confront Vader and then Vader's mask comes off, and it's Luke, you understand later that was because it was trying to tell him that Vader was his father, right? Mm-hmm. This doesn't give you any clues. It's just like, oh, it's you. You're you.
Well,
yeah, and then, that was a sort of weak ass dark side moment. Let's put it that way.
What we think, right? I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
What JJ
right.
If
there's another shoe yet to drop, maybe. If there's no more shoes, then yeah.
Okay, so favorite line, one of many favorite lines from the Luke and Rey relationship is when Luke says, "What do you want me to do? Walk out with a laser sword and face the entire First Order?"
Yes.
Yes.
Exactly
yes,
what he
does.
do.
That's exactly what the whole audience wants you to freaking do.
I loved it.
And he does.
No,
he does it.
No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. He doesn't do it.
Well, we don't know he doesn't, but because he doesn't really, but essentially he does. Yeah. And that's the beauty of it.
I knew it as soon as his lightsaber was shown. The lightsaber gave it away the second it came out.
Because he had a blue lightsaber?
He has Anakin's lightsaber. He has Anakin's lightsaber, and Anakin's lightsaber just got ripped in half about 15 minutes earlier.
I mean, maybe he made another one.
No, it was definitely the lightsaber that was Kylo. Wait, never mind. It's getting confusing. Anyway, the important point is that it was the salt that did it for me.
Yeah,
the salt when he got no environment on him.
Yeah. He doesn't. Also, like if you watch his feet, he doesn't disturb the salt when he's moving.
Yeah. They did a close up of his footwork, and I didn't catch it the first viewing. And he doesn't show red, and they immediately show Kylo's footwork, and he shows red. And it's like a lot of people saw that and like, oh, he's not really there. Mm-hmm. Like it feels like such a giveaway now that I know, but I missed it the first time.
He also had a haircut and dyed his beard.
Yeah, he's a little younger. Yeah.
Yeah, I really love that struck home to me as a slightly aging person, which is that our mental image of ourself is not the image that we have on our current faces. Like
I took it as this is what Kylo saw last.
Yeah, that's also true. But I took it as your mental image of yourself. My mental image of myself is 26 years old, and it surprises me every day that I don't look like that. So I love that idea.
My mental image has always been of myself as 76. So I'm surprised every day when I look in the mirror. I'm like, wow, I'm still pretty young.
I don't look like Gandalf yet.
Wait, I was gonna say.
I'm sorry, I threw you off.
Yeah. No. I had a thought, and it.
About the mental image of ourselves being younger than we think.
Yeah, but it was something else about the island, and now I forget. It might have involved porgs.
Well, you brought them
Or
up, so
the other white meat.
Yeah.
you brought them up. So porgs was the other thing in this movie that I thought was great until they went just one thing too far. Like I could have used just one less porg joke, and I'll tell you exactly what it was. I think it was the final porg laugh was the porg like getting slapped against the side of the Millennium Falcon window as Chewie's doing some sweet maneuvers through the mineral cave. That was me going, enough with the porgs already.
But they worked, right?
Yes, they were great set dressing in Octu 2. And you needed birds because of all the wide shots and because birds sell distance. When you're on an island, you have to have birds. So why not make them a cool space bird?
Yeah. I didn't mind the porgs at all. I mean, compared to Ewoks, thought they were great.
Yeah. I immediately renamed them guilt owls. Because that's what they were. They were just owls that looked at you like you were a bad person.
Oh my gosh, Chewie would agree with you, wouldn't he?
Yeah. They're my favorite. Like they look like they're just so disappointed with you all the time.
Everyone is so mad about not knowing who Snoke is and not knowing if that's really Rey's parents. The biggest dangling question for me is, did Chewie actually eat that porg after the judging porg looked at him?
Yeah.
He didn't want to. And that is followed by one of the more touching scenes. One of the scenes, you know, I've seen some criticism that's like, oh, there's no touch to the old ways, and I'm like, come on, you've got Yoda, you've got Leia and Luke reunion, and you've got Luke coming back onto the Millennium Falcon and looking in the cockpit and pulling down the dice and sitting down at the table exactly where he had been the first time he was on the Millennium Falcon and seeing R2, and that's when you see young Luke. He's like, R2. And then R2 playing the message from Carrie Fisher or from Princess Leia just worked for me. Totally cool.
So great.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. They were when nostalgia was invoked in this movie, it was invoked to great effect, and I felt that it was earned, and it wasn't just a cheap cash in. You can't have, I think, any original cast members of Star Wars enter the Millennium Falcon without it feeling nostalgic. It's just impossible. I guess Leia got on the Falcon this time and it didn't feel nostalgic, but they were just in such a rush. Yeah. But yeah, you're absolutely right. And then R2, I thought that landed, and it started like I see young Princess Leia and my brain immediately goes, oh, you're trying to make me like your movie, and then Luke reacts to it. I'm just like, nope, this is perfect. This is so well done. Rian Johnson gets it. He does love Star Wars. He's not trying to burn every single bit of it to ashes. He's just trying to grow something. He's like, new
just
and cool.
move on. Move on. We can still love the past and move on at the same time.
Exactly. And then speaking of the great use of nostalgia, let's just finally talk about Yoda. Because that shot, my God, when Luke's walking up with the torch, and then we get the from behind shot, and you see Yoda's ears in the foreground. I still have to apologize to my wife because I smacked the crap out of her leg. I was just like, ooh, like in the theater. It was bad. It was great. I was
the
so
second and third times that I saw the movie. One of my favorite moments was knowing that I was coming and then just listening to the what, and the stunned reactions of the people seeing it for the first time. So cool.
Yeah. I went back the third time just so I could write down everything that Yoda said in a notebook, because I just thought it was one of the actual best written scenes in the movie. And I didn't get all of what Luke said, but like everything he said was just so simple and perfect. And it was just like, I mean, we could go through it, but like him saying young Skywalker, oh, Skywalker, missed you I have. Like,
always looking to the horizon.
That was so great. And
that's when Luke becomes whiny Dagobah Luke again. It's so cool.
And then my favorite line in the whole movie, I'll probably say that 6 times, but this one really is. He says, Luke, we are what they grow beyond. And I just thought, oh my God. That's whenever they had that final line, whoever thought of it, like somebody jumped up and was like, yes! Because that is a great line.
It's how I don't know how you create dialogue that matches or may even surpass Yoda, like Empire Yoda, but they found a way, because this works. I I feel the need to keep injecting grievances because I feel like we're just gushing. The puppet looked bad.
What?
It did not look like Yoda.
It was a direct cast of the original Yoda puppet.
Well,
it looked like the original Yoda. Have you watched Empire lately?
I have. I watched it last week.
I'm not going to say you're wrong about it looking bad, but it looked just as bad as it did in Empire.
I watched it last week. It didn't look right. His ears were bent the wrong way. His mouth didn't move the same. It was just. I don't know what it is about Yoda. They just can never make another Yoda puppet correctly because Episode 1 got it really wrong. This movie got it significantly less wrong, but it still looked weird to me. It didn't look like Dagobah Yoda.
Nothing looks like you remember it from childhood.
I don't remember it from childhood. I watched the damn movie last week.
You were so much younger last week.
Yeah.
I saw the original puppet at the St. Pete Museum 3 weeks ago.
But again, this is
I stole it, and I had it with me at the opening.
The cops will be here in 5 minutes. We need to wrap this up.
This is the scene where we get the theme of this particular movie about failure. Pass on what you have learned. Strength, mastery, yes, but weakness, failure also, which is exactly what's going on in the other plot line, which to me helped a lot when I figured that out. Because I was like, oh, this makes sense. They are going to show everybody failing.
Well, and that kind of brings us nicely to Finn and Rose somehow being able to leave the battle, which I was like, well, wait, if they could leave the battle, why can't everybody else leave the battle? But I guess that's Holdo's plan, sort of anyway. But their race to Canto Bight to find the Codemaster, and just, to summarize the big points, and we can dig down a little deeper if you want, I think a lot of people didn't like it because it felt prequel-y. I liked it because it felt prequel-y in a good way. It was showing me a new area of the universe that I hadn't seen before, and it was that vast galaxy feeling. A lot of people didn't like it because maybe it just didn't end up paying off, which we're talking about. That's failure for you. I did think that it was a little weird that the horses caused such an earthquake the first time they went around the track, but didn't seem to ever again. But I actually really liked Benicio del Toro's character. I'm like, that's a real rogue. Like, Han Solo's kind of pretending to be a rogue, but he's really a really good guy. But Benicio del Toro's character, like, that's a rogue. That guy does not care. Highest bidder is all he cares about.
I'm with you on Canto Bight. I wrote in my notes that Canto Bight felt like Filoni to me. And to me, if you look in a dictionary, Filoni says the prequels done correctly. So I liked it too. I agree with everyone. It's like, oh my god, this just hit the brakes. This stopped the movie dead in its tracks. It was the slowest point in the movie. It was definitely the plot I cared the least about. I was anxious to get back to what was happening on the fleet, what was happening with Kylo, what was happening with Rey and Luke. But I still enjoyed it. I liked that it had a chance to breathe. I love and frankly, I would have been really disappointed without it because this movie didn't star hop a lot. We don't see really anything outside of Octo.
It's a long space chase and a lot of time on Octo, and then Crate.
Yeah, Crate at the very end, which feels like its own movie almost.
Yeah, I know.
It really did. If anything, that was when on my third viewing, the part where I'm like, oh, this feels like Crate feels like the start of the next movie somehow.
It kind of does.
It was so gorgeous, you just wanted more of it, I think. It was so gorgeous and so simple and so good that for me it was hard to only have it for like a short period of time. I do know that in the future, Canto Bight will be the part that I skip on the DVD or streaming.
Mm-hmm.
I've got it. You know that moment where you're like, oh, I'm going to skip this weak-ass villain in the Marvel movie because I got it. I don't need to see the Dark Elves again, right? Like, Canto Bight is probably going to be the thing I skip. And I'm okay with DJ. I think that stutter was like an acting choice that I didn't need.
DJ bothered me. I like what we got out of him in theme. I love Benicio del Toro. I think this might be the worst role I've ever seen him in. I couldn't stand him. It felt like the direction they gave him was, could you do a bad impression of yourself? Thanks.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny is him being Benicio del Toro really didn't take me out of it, but it did for a lot of people I know. Laura Dern actually took me out of it because I had just watched Twin Peaks: The Return, and she still looked like Diane to me, more so than Benicio del Toro. I don't know. I like DJ. I think I'm in the minority there, though.
I liked him. I liked his character. I liked he looked like Brad Pitt from Fight Club in a weird way.
Oh,
but
right.
like,
oh my God, you're right.
Yeah, there was time that he talked like him. I was like, what is going on here? And then they had this stutter that wasn't even a real stutter. It was like different. I listened to it 3 times, so it was like different letters and then a totally different sentence. I was like, well, then what
it was
is
weird.
the
He'd
point?
Be like, we can go now.
Yeah, it was weird. Like it just was choicey.
So yeah, it's weird. I think if we all disliked and liked different things. So I kind of liked the stutter because I was like, I think we finally had our first scene in a major Star Wars film with a spice fiend. I think he's a drug addict.
Oh yeah, right.
I think he's a drug addict, and I think he was in jail and going through with some withdrawals.
We also had our first scene with a slicer, which I think was kind of cool.
Yeah. Like I said, I like.
In fact, it stuck out when Rose used the word crack into, or maybe it was DJ that used it, but somebody used the word crack into it. I was like, you mean slice into?
Yeah. Like, hello.
Yeah.
Wait, I missed something from the island that's important to Garrett. You want to know? Did you see it, Garrett? I don't know if you saw it. Did you see Rey, when she was practicing on that big rock, use her Ahsoka move?
I did, and I've lost my mind.
Yeah, that was for you. They did that for you.
Yes.
That was huge. I was like, Garrett!
Yeah, it was. She was
that in the movie theater.
It's like she was practicing lightsaber kata and different stances. And
the Anakin, the Ahsoka Tano, the Luke.
Yeah, which by the way is a terrible way to fight with a bladed weapon. You have no control at all. But yes, it was.
I just like, it's so important that I like in the theater. I was like, oh my God, Garrett's gonna freak out.
Yep. Also, did you notice that Luke inflects Revenge of the Sith Obi-Wan in his fight against Kylo?
Oh, I didn't see that.
He tells him he failed him. And Obi-Wan says the exact same thing to Anakin when they're on those floaty little moving platforms on Mustafar.
There's a lot of little callbacks, and I think we're about to get there. But Rey and Kylo reenact the killing of Han Solo.
Ooh.
Where Kylo says, "I know what I need to do," and Rey says, "Ben."
I didn't pick up on that at all.
Oh yeah, it's beat for beat, just quick, those 2 lines.
You're right.
You know, Snoke is telling Kylo to kill Rey, and he says, "I know what I need to do," and Rey says, "Ben," and it just sent shivers down my spine, like, ooh, wow.
That's a good one.
Yeah. But before I know we're bouncing all over the place. Before we leave DJ in the dust, I just, even though I didn't particularly love Del Toro's acting here, like I said, love the themes and where it went with him. We have a character who finally just brings up the endless cycle of war in these movies. Yeah. And that I liked that. The fact he's flipping through the holograms and you're seeing all these classic Imperial vehicles.
Sells to the good guys too.
But yeah, exactly. But sadly, it also reminded me that TIE Interceptors are the coolest ship design, and we didn't get a new one in this, even though we got a new version of the Rebel Interceptor, which is the A-Wing. So I was it brought up weird little personal issues with that.
Also, it was just cool to see other people who weren't Rebellion or First Order or Empire or it was, there were people in the world, so you get a much better sense of that in the books. But like, I did like that. I just thought Canto Bight, you're right. It was like 10 minutes too long.
Yeah. Now, I think one way we can bridge to the next bit of film is talking about Kylo and Rey force timing each other.
Yeah, we haven't brought that up yet. This was, oh man. So I think in my tiered system of what I loved about this movie, Luke is just number 1 on top, king of the mountain. I didn't know Mark Hamill had this in him. And but immediately below that is anything involving Kylo and Rey. I was so into it. I cared so much about what happened next in their little talks because it was a really cool, like philosophical debate between them, and also you start to get the story of Luke and Kylo. Yeah,
and there's neat little bits in there. One is Kylo saying, "You can't be doing this. The effort would kill you," which is another tip-off to the fact that Luke is not going to survive force projecting himself, force teleporting himself to Crate.
Right.
You get every time they interact, Rey, the light side of the Force, is angry and yelling, and Kylo, the dark side, is calm and reasonable.
Oh God, you're absolutely right. Although, like every other time I see Kylo in this, he's just total man-child.
Right. No, that's the crazy thing is like he destroys his helmet earlier, and because he's mad baby Kylo, but when he's force timing with Rey, he's like all calm.
Mm-hmm. Well,
they were in each other's brains.
Yeah.
That's the part I think is cool. So if you reconnect their brains, then you're kind of giving each one the part of the other. And I did like that. They're definitely skirting the edge of romantic attraction, right?
Oh, there's
tension. Oh, dude, this was such a sexy Star Wars movie.
Can you put on a cowl or something?
Yeah.
I saw people complaining about that joke. I loved that. I thought
that
that
was a
was
good joke.
wonderful because I've researched making a Kylo costume, and I remember seeing the pants, and I'm like, wow,
They're high-waisted.
those go up really high. Why did those go up so high? And I love
They're
that
like
they didn't.
Spider-Man, Marissa Tomei high.
Yeah,
It was the fashion a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
High-waisted pants are never a yes. A thing I really like that ties into this force time thing that Tom has brilliantly named is that there are so many things that Rey has never experienced. She has never experienced a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
She has never really experienced rain. Like, you remember that one shot where she's under the Falcon and she just takes a second to be like
marveling at the water, yeah.
marveling at rain, and then she sees snow for the first time. Like, Rey is sort of like a weird test tube baby, which actually
living YouTube comment. She saw snow on the Starkiller base.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah, she doesn't see snow in this movie.
Well,
it's created salt.
No, salt.
even on the top. Is
Oh,
white
you
salt
mean
and
when,
red
you're
salt?
right. I think
when
that
the,
is-
when the crystal critters lead them out. That
Yeah,
might be snow up
that
there.
might
You're
be
right.
snow.
I think it might
It's
still
in
be
the
salt
air.
though. I don't know. It's Star
Maybe
Wars.
salt
Usually,
snow.
usually the entire planet is one thing. So I'm gonna go with salt.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right. But yeah, she is so. I think it's like appropriate to take a second to talk about how much I love Rey, Rey Nobody daughter. She is always making the right choice, even when it's not easy. And I know some people don't like that. I love it. I just love it. Like, she is the calm center of this movie, and she never loses her purpose, even when it seems like she's about to lose her purpose. I don't know. I love it. It's really great to see.
Well, they're definitely people are not paying enough attention to the fact that they're building up that she knew where the island was. She had seen the tree before.
Yeah.
She teaches Luke when she gets to that island. Like, there is more to Rey than we have yet learned. And I think that's when Rian Johnson says who her parents are doesn't matter. Is that who Rey is still matters? Like, who is she? And she never gives Luke a real answer to that.
No.
He's like, who are you? Get the funny joke about Jakku really bad. That really is nowhere. But
Yeah.
we don't know who she is and why she is able to be so centered and why she knows about the tree and why she had a vision of the island and why when she touched that lightsaber did she hear Kenobi's voice and Yoda's voice? Like, is it just because of the Force? What else is going on with this girl? Why did she get pulled to the dark side so fast? There's so many questions.
I just had a great prediction for the next movie.
Yeah.
Is she the Force daughter from Mortis?
From what?
For what?
Mortis.
What is
Remember the
Mortis?
planet Mortis in the Clone Wars where they had the Force daughter and the Force son?
Oh yeah, that's a trippy episode. I forgot about
That's
that.
a
remember
trippy
that at all.
episode, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like, I don't think so, but it just made me think, like, maybe she's imbued with... They're not going to ever go into this in the movies. We've now made perfectly clear. But there is something to her that is way more old soul than just a chick from Jakku, I think. And I think that the Force daughter is as good an explanation as
She's
anything.
a Horcrux for the Force daughter.
Yeah, sure. I mean, they did talk about splitting souls in two by killing people, and then they had a mirror that showed you your parents. So, like, there's a healthy Harry Potter strain in this for sure.
Well, they had a mirror that didn't show you your parents.
there's one thing. There's like so many things. The island was like my favorite part of this movie. That almost everything that happened on the island I want to talk about. But like one of my favorite things is R2-D2 giving droid side eye. Remember that thing like when Luke is like, oh, that's a cheap trick, and R2 just like turns his little head and gives like side eye. Like you forget, like R2-D2 is one of the most expressive droids, and he kind of got overshadowed in this by BB-8. But I just loved it. Like he's just the wisdom.
Old. He's old. I get it. Like he has been around since Phantom Menace. For goodness sake, that droid shouldn't be operating anymore. So. Yeah, he's going to move a little slower. He's not going to be around as much, but I love that he's still there. It's amazing.
There's an incredible, I don't know if you guys have read the book From a Certain Point of View. Everybody should read it because there's a quick hit story in there about another droid experiencing everything that R2 actually knows. And it's one of the greatest... or Jawa, actually. It's one of the greatest stories. It makes me so sad. I read it like 3 times, and I would highly recommend it because it reminds you again how crucial R2 is to this series. So, anyway.
So I think we can go from force timing to the throne room scene, and then from there to crate, probably. But let's talk about, like, and the way I'd like to bridge it is, I felt like what was happening when Kylo and Rey were force timing each other is they were dancing around balance in the force. And the fact, and Luke was pressing this lesson as well, is like, it's not light or dark, it's balance. Balance is what you need. And Luke even says you can't have light without the dark. And they're sort of moving towards the center despite Snoke's plan that we find out later. And in the throne room, it sort of comes to a head that maybe this is what's actually happening. And even though it isn't, what Kylo says to her is, let's leave it all behind. Let's leave Snoke behind. Let's leave Luke behind. Let's leave the light side and the dark side behind. Join me and we can rule. Why doesn't Rey take him up on that?
Because
it's not a clear evil move.
No.
He's saying we've brought balance. We can do balance together.
I was actually thinking along the same lines of, I think she refutes because of the location and the implication. I mean, they're in the throne room. They're on the flagship for the First Order. I think that Kylo is insinuating, let's take the First Order and rule the galaxy, very much in the vein of Vader speaking to Luke.
And she just said, let's save the ship. And he's basically saying, nah, let's leave that behind. Kill your friends.
He killed his dad. Like, I'm sorry, you don't just get to blow. You could blow over Poe being a rebellious jerk. You could blow over nobody paying any attention to orders ever. You cannot blow over the fact that Kylo Ren murdered his dad. You don't get to just go happily off into the sunset after that. And I have a feeling he won't. Just
and I don't think she wants to rule. That's not her. That's not her.
Well, I'm saying she will never forget that she saw him murder his own dad.
Well,
there's no going off with Kylo.
And Tom, you brought up the word rule. I mean, there's intent there, and I don't think that's what Rey wants to do.
But I think where we're headed in 9 is an epic light versus dark battle. Supreme Leader Kylo Ren, Jedi Master, or at least Jedi Knight Rey, and General Finn, and Admiral Poe or whatever, and the end that I think they're headed towards is a balance where Rey and Kylo come to the middle, come to the gray, come to realize that what we don't need is the Jedi telling everyone how to behave. What we don't need is the government telling everyone how to behave. What we do need is balance. I kind of think that's where they're going to try to go in 9.
I hope so. That's what I'm thinking is Rey might come around and think, well, maybe Kylo wasn't horribly off, just that maybe we shouldn't reinstitute an emperor.
Yeah, a supreme. We don't need another supreme leader.
Yeah.
Also, love that Hux is about to shoot Kylo, and then as soon as Kylo wakes up,
so wonderful, so absolutely wonderful.
That Hux is a little bahach, let me tell you.
Yeah,
he's a space bahach.
Also, now we have a flip flop. Remember, there was Emperor Palpatine and his right hand man Vader. Now we have the Vader character in charge with a right hand man who's a civilian. Not that Palpatine really was a civilian, but he came up, through the bureaucracy like Hux did.
Yeah. No, you're right. Yeah. Although he's not force sensitive. So, I mean, who knows?
That's true. Big difference there.
Yeah, who knows how important that is to the whole bit. But yeah, the whole everything in the throne room was amazing, including just the design of it, the choice to just go with the flat red wall. My God, I couldn't believe how well that worked.
It's disco.
Yeah, you're not wrong, because I just watched Return of the Jedi, so that I had the Emperor's throne room in my head, which is over-engineered, and then you get the Snoke, and it's just we just need a red wall and some gold. I'll wear the gold. But this whole all of this really sold me on Snoke, because like I said, I went into this not caring about him, and by the end of this, I'm not sad he died, because it was one of the most badass uses of a lightsaber I've ever seen, followed by another most badass use of a lightsaber I've ever seen. We have a Snoke I think Jennie's dog is a Snoke fan, by the way. It's just disagrees with us.
So I think I know we've got this. I feel like we've sort of created our own new path for this episode. So I feel like this is an appropriate time for that Rian Johnson quote that's in our rundown here.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So Rian Johnson, I guess, gave a post-showing interview, and Collider.com grabbed some quotes from it. I'm just going to read the whole thing entirely, because we've mentioned it multiple times. Snoke is one of the biggest sore spots for, it seems like, a lot of folks who watched The Last Jedi. And on the subject of Snoke, Rian Johnson said that while he was working on the character Kylo, he said, quote, "I came to a place where I thought the most interesting thing would be to knock the shaky foundation out from under him," talking about Kylo here, "at the beginning of this movie. By the end of this film, he's gone from being a wannabe Vader to someone who is standing on his own feet as a complex villain, taking the reins." But then he said, but then the question is, what place would Snoke have at the end of that? That made me realize that the most interesting thing would be to eliminate that dynamic between the quote-unquote emperor and the pupil, so that all bets are off going into the next one. That also led to the possibility of this dramatic turn in the middle, which could also be a really powerful connection point between Kylo and Rey. So talking about force time there. And then finally he said, it would have stopped any of these scenes dead cold if he, talking about Snoke here, had stopped and given a 30-second speech about how he's Darth Plagueis. It doesn't matter to Rey. If he had done that, Rey would have blinked and said, "Who?" And the scene would have gone on. And I'm not saying he's Darth Plagueis.
Right.
So that's, again, direct quote from Mr. Rian Johnson, and I think he's right, personally. I mean, again, everything is a matter of taste. I don't think there's a right answer here. But when that lightsaber turned, you get the shot of Kylo's hands twitching around, and then the reaction shot of Snoke, by the way, as he's narrating Kylo's thoughts. I thought this was the most insanely awesome thing ever, because we've heard this from light side and dark side characters all throughout Star Wars. Be mindful of your thoughts. The Emperor is goading Luke on as he's reading his thoughts. Kylo knows this, understands this, and manipulates Snoke because he knows what he's doing. And everything Snoke is reading off is absolutely correct. He just doesn't realize which lightsaber Kylo is about to ignite. It was brilliant. I'm trying to say it's objective, or it's subjective, and there's no right answer. But damn it, I don't understand how everyone on Earth isn't just thinking this is the greatest play by a villain in Star Wars ever.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't work for everybody. I get that, but it makes sense to me what Rian was trying to do. And it worked for me too, I gotta say. The other thing before we get to Crate should be the Finn Rose face-off against Phasma, which was a little bit of a mess. I can't decide if I love or hate that BB-8 was operating a walker, and then got the head shot off and looked like some kind of spider BB-8 for a second there. But
I
then
can see it being a BB-8 jumps the shark moment in people's eyes.
It could have been. I think it went by fast enough, probably.
Yeah.
But
I thought that part was rad. Phasma's demise question mark was my sore point. Everyone, I've been seeing complaints since Force Awakens. Rey is too powerful. How is she this good if she had no training? Yada yada yada. I point that argument at Finn. He was a freaking janitor. He should have been dead within 3 seconds trying to fight Phasma. I just finished.
He was also a stormtrooper, though. Like, he got training. There's a book about it, so it's not like he was just a janitor in a gray suit. Like, he was a trained stormtrooper.
I know. It's just after compare Phasma's book to Finn's book, and I don't think they match up.
To Finn's short story, I know. I love that Phasma fought with her steel. Her steel pole.
The fight scene itself was great, and I think you could argue that Finn got lucky. He got thrown down a shaft that and an elevator was rising to meet him. He had a bit of a Marty McFly and Back to the Future 2 moment.
Yeah. Almost got shafted.
Yeah.
I love the laundry gag from this scene, like a little earlier when they like sneak into the Death Star. You see this big ominous thing, and then you realize it's an iron, and it's ironing clothing. Like that's the kind of humor that I think Rian Johnson is bringing to this Star Wars stuff that feels fresh to me. And and BB-8 with a garbage can on his head, and another BB unit tracking him. Like there's a playfulness to this that I think has its own unique flair, and I really like it.
Yeah, well, I think this movie does a very good job of balancing fun because kids are going to see this movie, and also weight and meaty things to chew on because there are a bunch of grown-ass adults that are still children going to see this movie.
And very vocal about it being for them and not for kids.
Right.
It's for everyone.
Right. It needs to tread that balance. I am in the camp of this movie walk that balance very well.
Yeah, I think so.
Mm-hmm.
So,
what else about Crate then do we need to talk about? I mean, honestly,
really awesome.
The big thing for me is the Luke and Leia reunion.
Yes, yeah, that was the send off for Leia that I don't think they expected to be a send off for Leia.
But man, was it heartwarming.
There were so many unintentionally gut wrenching scenes in this movie, all involving Carrie Fisher.
I mean, that is supposed to be Leia saying goodbye to Luke, foreshadowing that he is going to die. And it works the opposite way for all of us now.
Yeah. And so he handed her not actually Han's dice.
Yeah, that part I'm still trying to wrap my brain around the fact that he like gave her the dice, but then she left the dice, but when Kylo found the dice were Force dice and disappeared.
Even after Luke was dead, basically.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that.
I think maybe that might have been happening simultaneously, and we're just seeing it out of time because of the way you can show scenes in movies.
Yeah, that could fix that part. But why Luke would make a point of giving Leia Force dice to remind her of Han, which was touching, right? Like this moment that had all three of them, but then she would just leave them.
Yeah, maybe because she knew they weren't real. Like I think there's a good chance that Leia knew when she was handed the dice.
Like as soon as Luke walked away, she went Force dice and threw them on the ground.
Or just like that he wasn't actually there. Like I think
she must have
probably tell.
That. Yeah.
Although why his hand didn't. Why he could touch some things and not, I don't know.
We don't.
Why the lightsaber went through him, but he
Yeah.
could kiss Leia on the forehead. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or Yoda could hit him with his stick and it would hurt.
Doesn't matter. Because that was really a wonderful scene, and thank God they shot it. Because if they hadn't, we would have been without. Like if they'd been saving that for 9, we'd all be in a lot of trouble.
Yeah. Also, what about the moment where Luke says, "Strike me down, and I will always be with you, like your father"?
I don't think that was literal. I think that was the fact that we all know Kylo is still conflicted about his choice to kill his father.
But then why would Luke be with him?
Because Luke could just show up and force.
He'd be conflicted about killing Luke?
No, I think it was a play on the fact that, well, your father's still with you because this will haunt you forever. I will just show up as a Force ghost when you're taking a bath.
I mean, I don't think Han could be a Force ghost, but yeah. All right.
Wait. Did we somehow not talk about the Lightspeed space crash?
Oh no, we didn't. We didn't talk about
that seems
Holdo.
important.
Yeah, super important.
Yeah. Yes, that was so. What I really wanted to get out of this movie, I just wanted to see things I hadn't seen before in the Star Wars universe, and I got that in it was covered in things I'd never seen before, and that was probably the biggest one, because who as a kid didn't do that with their Star Wars toys? That was
come out of Lightspeed in the wrong place and you find yourself floating home. Admiral Holdo's like, hey, I could use that to my advantage.
Yeah,
on the other end, on the way out.
Yeah, I forgot because I just didn't like Holdo ever. She never clicked for me in this movie. I didn't.
Did you read the Leia book?
I did, and she was not the Holdo in the Leia book, who I also didn't like. And she just, I just didn't like. Holdo and Poe was my biggest sore spot in this movie.
Oh, I love their dynamic.
Really?
I love that Poe tries to mansplain, and she's like, well, thank you for doing that. Like, she just was in charge and never felt the need to explain because she was comfortable being in charge.
I felt she never felt the need to
women on the bridge, all of them, they were all women after people got sucked out into space, and they just took it on and they went there, and all they had to deal with was this crabby hotshot demanding to be explained what was going on, even though there was several rungs above his
did a mutiny
station.
in order to get his way. Yeah.
Hello, does this not ring any bells?
I think
I saw that and I was just like, I love this movie.
I think she didn't explain because the plot demanded it. Poe is the leader of your squadron, and you're not gonna tell him your plan. He is on a first name basis with Leia. She tells him shit, and you're not gonna tell him shit.
Kind of like when you're a substitute teacher and the teacher has a teacher's pet, and the teacher's pet thinks that he's really important, but he's just the teacher's pet.
I disagree. It's more
there
like
are different styles of management, and some styles of management would discipline Poe by telling him, like, here's why you're wrong. I'm going to prove to you why I am smarter than you and you are wrong, and I'm going to tell you. The style of management that Holdo shows is, I am in charge. I don't need to spend my time explaining to you. You're supposed to follow my orders, follow my orders. That's it. That's the way this military organization runs. And so it's just a different style of management. I don't think it's a plot weakness at all.
I don't think the movie did a good job selling that as the reason then, because they had time to talk. It clearly was a sore spot, and it's war. People's lives are on the line.
You don't spend time. That's my point, is you don't stand around explaining things in war. You just tell people, like, you just need to do what I told you to do. And that's exactly what Holdo says to him.
I don't buy it. It bothered me to no end, because it felt like a lot of things.
Well, I wonder if a different character, you would have bought it.
I mean, maybe, but I mean, it was great when Leia woke up and just stunned him, because at that point, he had gone too far, but it all of that would have been just avoided had she said, we're getting out on transports. That's it. Done. Yeah.
I also think, like, maybe she didn't know about the beacon. And so maybe she thought, like, it was a leak. You know, there's a lot of stuff that could have been explained.
Well,
like, maybe she thought there was a spy on the ship.
That I have heard, and I think that's great. Tell us that in the movie, so that it sells this begrudgment a little better. Because that would have been fine had she had.
If this is the movie Patton, and someone at Poe's rank comes up and says, you have to tell me what the plan for D-Day is, Patton, and Patton says, shut up and get out of here and follow my orders, you don't question that. That's Holdo. That's what Holdo was doing, is like, no, I'm running the ship right now. I think maybe if it doesn't work, it works because we've spent so much time with Poe. We think he's more important than he is. But he is just a commander of a wing squadron. He's not a high-level officer.
But I bet you he will be in 9.
Well, he will now because everybody else is dead.
Yeah. Like, I think you're going to see... anyway, we should get back to Crate, but because I think you're going to see a lot of things... But I thought Crate was amazing. And my favorite moment is 3 TIE fighters are coming for Rose, and you see a shadow on the ground. Yeah. And it's the Millennium Falcon.
I felt like the first time I saw it, I was the only one, because I went, oh, and no one else reacted. I was like, did you not see what that shadow was?
Yeah.
The only thing I liked better than that was Kylo's reaction was, blow that ship out of the sky.
Blow that piece of junk
they're like,
out
well,
of
they
the
ate
sky.
the ship.
Yep, I loved it. It was so good.
I feel like Kylo thought that was like his dad's car, the old car that he was embarrassed by. like your dad has like a really embarrassing old boat of a car, and you're just like, I hate that car.
Yep.
I also really loved that the Crystal Critters mimicked the Star Wars Rebels plotline in Follow the Doggies.
I liked it.
And it was cats and Star Wars Rebels, but still, you know.
I liked it, and then I also liked that it subverted at the end. It's like, no, they didn't care about you. There was a tiny little hole between rocks they could squeeze out of, and you just happened to see them leaving.
Well, maybe, I don't know. One of them stayed back and made sure he was seen all the way to the end. So
yeah, I guess that's fair enough. But I was like, well, I don't think these particular dogs are motivated by the Force. I think they're motivated by a need to survive, which I like that it was different enough.
I also loved that Chewie is driving the Falcon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
he's flying.
Because it's his ship.
My question.
What was Rey doing driving? It's his
She's
ship.
a great pilot, but
but
he should be flying. You're right.
Yeah, my big question one of my big questions going into this is like, oh my god, what does this mean for Chewie? Like, who does he team up with? And the answer is he doesn't need to team up with anyone. He's perfectly capable of being a awesome badass completely by himself.
He's a grown-ass Wookiee. He doesn't need anybody.
He's an old Wookiee. He's been around.
Wookiee.
Yeah, he's been around the block. He knows what's up. Yeah, I really enjoyed the crate things. That was another. It seemed like another big sore point was the speeders accomplishing nothing. But to me, that was the end of both Poe and Finn's arc. Poe makes the call to retreat, which he did not do at the beginning of the movie and got a lot of people killed.
That was him finally coming into his own.
Yeah. And Finn tried to sacrifice himself, and then Rose also comes in and saves him. So you have these three new characters, and it's all the kind of the end of their journey in this particular chapter of Star Wars, which I really liked it. On top of the fact that it was one of the most beautiful things I have ever seen on screen.
Mm-hmm.
So, all amazing. Freaking Luke showing up, all the AT-M6s firing on him, I was watching them like, oh my god, Star Wars is anime now. Star Wars is anime, and I'm totally on board.
I'm like, he must have had a force bubble. Like, first of all, we know he's going to survive, right? But how is he going to survive? And of course, we find out later he wasn't actually there. That's how he didn't really survive, but he survived long enough.
Yes, but if it was Thor Ragnarok, his lifeless corpse would have been in a comical dead fashion on the ground.
Yeah. True enough. True enough.
Yeah, I mean that entire bit was great. And then I don't know, probably fourth or fifth time I teared up in this movie was going back to Octu and seeing Luke come down from his levitation.
With the twin suns.
With the twin suns. And when the music starts and you see the twin suns, I was just, again, nostalgia done right. And once again, I'm having to watch heroes from my childhood die in front of my eyes.
Everything changes. Everything moves. That's the cause a wheel.
Yeah.
To me, this whole new trilogy is basically like an extended version of The Sound of Music when the children are like, so long, farewell, and then one of them peels off in every time. It's like one of these main characters is peeling off in every movie, and the only question is now, like, they may, by tragic circumstance, they're going to have to figure something out for the third one. But, like, each of these main characters got their movie to say goodbye.
Yeah. Anything left to talk about for this movie before we move on to what we think is next?
Yes, I have two really quick things, and they're dumb, but they're funny. Hey, did you notice the caretakers on Octu making a Kermit face every time Ray breaks something? Like, you remember when Kermit the Frog would get pissed off and he would make that face, and his like lips would all get all puffed out, and his face would, and he would like wrinkle. Yeah. They make that face. It's like such a Disney thing. It's so subtle, but I just love it because they just like they look like frogs.
Yeah, they're very froggy.
They're very froggy.
It's a very Muppet thing.
And then, why did Kylo Ray look like a roll of northern quilted toilet paper?
Oh, thank you.
Kylo Ray?
Kylo Ren.
Ren. Oh yeah, you're doing because
Why?
His costume was literally the worst thing about this movie. I hated.
I was not bothered
much.
by anything he wore. I know exactly what you're talking about, but it never
His
bugged me.
pajamas the whole movie.
I couldn't stand
comfortable.
his damn. He looked like he was in like fencing gear, which is not cool. Fencing equipment does not look cool. I don't know who thought it did, but he looked like he had rolled around in a sleeping bag around his chest and decided to keep it on. He had such a great costume in Force Awakens. I can't stand his Last Jedi getup.
Yeah, it didn't love it. Also, the high pants. No.
Also,
No,
where,
no.
where did Rey get her new outfit? Her gray version of the exact same thing she wore in Force Awakens.
She got that on Dakar. Like
She
Leia
had
raided
that at
her
the
wardrobe.
end of Force
Yeah.
Awakens.
No. The one she leaves Ahch-To in, which is a new version of what she wore before she swapped into what she got on the car.
Well, then Leia gave her a change of clothes.
I'm looking at it, I'm like, this is exactly her clothes from Jakku. It's just gray, and her vest is made of wool instead of like a cotton material.
Couple of ace bandages, right? Some paper mache type crepe. I loved her outfit. I thought her outfit was great.
Her costumes were absolutely incredible in this movie.
Yeah.
I should never vote for achievement in costuming because you guys noticed way more than I did.
Yeah.
We dress up for Star Wars movies here, so I'm notice that crap a little more. But yeah, I like to think that the caretakers made it for her. That they were just like, oh, a new Jedi. What do you like?
I sew for you. One
Even
thing
though
I
you
really,
keep destroying everything.
yeah, I know.
Yeah.
See you around, kid was a really important line because it does definitely indicate that we might see Luke Skywalker, and it was also a line that Han said to Luke, right, when he bailed right before the Battle of Yavin.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He says, "See you around, kid."
Yep.
Yeah.
Like that's important because that's a Han guilt
The online
stab.
son by Luke. Yeah.
Yeah,
interesting.
and it also means like I'm not going anywhere, even though I'm going into the sunset.
Yeah. Well, I think that takes us nicely into what's next. And my only thought for sure, I have lots of speculation. My only thought for sure for episode 9 is I feel like they have to deal with Leia immediately. That you can't leave us wondering, because everybody's going to be wondering this. And I think the best way to deal with it, if it were me, would be to, because I've heard that maybe the next movie is going to be set like 10 years down the road, right? That it won't pick up. The best thing for me would be you just start with Leia's funeral. You don't show anything. You just open with like, this has happened. We've lost a great leader today. And you do a moving tribute to Carrie Fisher that way and to that character. And you set it aside deftly, and then you can get on with the rest of the movie.
Yeah, I agree.
That could
Because
be
there's
inspiration for the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
But what I think though is like they've really been setting up. This is what is, I think, changed, and what will change the next movie is they were very clearly setting up like with Kylo Ren, your father can't save you, your mentor uncle can't save you,
Right.
and I think there was going to be some sort of version of your mother will die trying to save you, and it will cause you to die in some noble way, and I don't think they're doing that now.
Nope, they're definitely not doing that now.
Yeah, but it will be interesting to see, like, I don't know, are there any other female characters floating around the non-canon universe that they could bring in to have an impact? I don't know.
I think we have enough characters to play with.
No. I think we're missing one.
No,
and I think there's a vacuum.
Right.
Yeah, Snap's
mom has not been brought into this.
oh man, I just figured Tom would hate this movie, by the way, because there was no Snap Wexley.
I was
Yeah.
about that.
Not
that
even-
and the fact that apparently BB-8 says I've got a bad feeling about this, so we didn't hear it.
Yeah. I couldn't catch that in all three viewings. Like they said you could hear the phrasing of it in the beeps, but that's going to be a Blu-ray thing for sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Slow it down.
But where
play it
was
back.
Snap? What was Snap Wexley doing?
There's
Apparently, I've read in an article. I haven't read this in anything canon, but apparently he is on a mission. He is elsewhere.
Well, he
Because
missed
not
a
all
lot.
Is together. So they had some people out flying individual missions, and he was doing that.
I think it's mentioned in the visual dictionary that he and other members of the Resistance are. They're not all just with the fleet. Others were on missions, and that they've been given a retreat signal, to retreat to other bases because of what's happened at Dakar. Not one of those things that just I don't think they had time to mention in the movie. Although it would have been great if Leia just had a moment like, make sure you get a message to Snap.
I would have liked that. Yeah.
I know you would have, Tom. And
Rian Johnson's just not as good of friends with Greg Grunberg as J.J. Abrams, so
Yeah,
whatever.
really. Snap will be back.
Yeah.
He better be.
Yep.
Okay, so episode 9. Any chance of seeing Grand Admiral Thrawn?
No,
No.
I don't think so.
Okay.
You save him. He's Rebels, and you
Yep.
save him for potential ancillary
Right.
movies.
Ryan Johnson's.
In fact, yeah, maybe
Great.
Rian Johnson's trilogy gets him.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think so.
I think we're not going to see heritage characters other than any that are left, like R2D2 and C3PO. I don't think we.
They better not kill R2D2.
I don't think we bring back Lando. I don't think we pull in Thrawn. I think it's all new in
Yeah.
9.
I mean, Thrawn is ancillary because he's never actually been in a film, so I think it's more possible. But yeah, I think Leia was supposed to be the last bastion of original trilogy, and sadly Carrie Fisher's no longer with us, so I don't know. I am so confused as to where the next movie is going to go after this movie.
Yeah.
If Leia,
It's going to be a battle to overthrow the First Order. First Order is going to be in business now because they've essentially eliminated the Resistance. And what is the Resistance doing now that it's the Rebellion again? And they very clearly said the Rebellion was reborn today. Also, they keep saying we are the spark that lights the fire. Like several different characters, like we are the spark that lights the fire. Like I have a feeling that Episode 9 is going to be called something like the spark ignites or something like, because they kept talking about the Last Jedi in Force Awakens. We must find the Last Jedi. They mentioned it a couple of times. I'm like, wait, is this a tip off that's going to be the name of the next one?
Maybe. I don't know. I'm not sure. I feel it'd be strange if it was so like Resistance / Rebel focused and not having something to do with the Force. Although Empire Strikes Back it was just a reference to the damn Empire, so who knows?
Okay. So there's some love triangle stuff that needs to be resolved. Something about Rose and kissing, which I didn't buy. I thought that was like a bridge too far. Like they can't just be friends. Something about Rey.
Rey will not be able to be with Finn, so they're giving Finn another love interest, which is Rose. That will make the Rey-Finn relationship more complex, but also allow Finn to let Rey go to pursue her path.
Yes. Does her path then lead her to Kylo Ren?
Well, it either leads her to be like, I can't have attachments because I'm Jedi, or it leads her to like, I'm shacking up with Kylo.
No.
I think it's one of those. I think it's one of those two. Well, Ben. She'll not shack up with Kylo, but she might shack up with Ben.
I'm telling you, my prediction is Kylo Ren is going to bite the noble Jedi dust by the end of 9.
I think Ben just won't be Solo anymore. He'll have a little ray of sunshine.
Oh, that's it, everybody. We're done.
That's the end of the show. Thank you for all coming. And Tom finally got his punny in for today.
Yep.
I don't know. I feel like there's still a chance for Kylo to redeem himself. If Carrie was still with us, I'm kind of in your camp, Tom. Like I could have seen going into the next one, like maybe Leia sacrifices herself to save Rey or someone, and Kylo ends up killing her accidentally, and is just so overcome.
I mean, I don't
grief.
know. J.J. Abrams doesn't love a redemption story or anything, does he?
Oh yeah, no, not at all, not at all. But yeah, I don't.
You guys, he killed Han Solo. He has to die.
No, that's why he has to be redeemed, to come back from killing his own father.
But we're moving away from you have to be light side, you have to be dark side. You have to be something more
Doesn't
in
mean
between.
he has to go light.
Don't get to off your dad. Like there's some rules that still remain. If you off your dad and then you redeem yourself, you have to pay for it.
But
he'll pay for it, no doubt.
I think
but no one is beyond redemption.
That's my point. I think that's what Last Jedi was trying to tell us, was to learn from your failures no matter how great they are, and even if one of those failures may be murdering your parent.
Which he does not feel okay with.
No, he doesn't.
But he still did it. Okay,
yes.
that will be next month. Let's talk about Star Wars. It's the debate of the redemption of Kylo Ren or
Certainly.
not. I'm totally cool with that.
Certainly, yes. But yeah, in the first time in the history of Star Wars, I have no idea what's happening next, and that excites me to no end.
Great.
Yeah. No, it's really cool.
Yeah.
Will it be a redemption? I don't know.
Oh, Tom Merritt. Boo.
Yeah. I'm very excited. We already have
Or a redemption.
so many of you have already written in for emails, which we just don't have time to crack the spine on right now. So
We'll keep those. We'll keep those for sure.
I think our next one will be our first of many what comes next theory-sodes. But until then, I think we just more or less wrap this up. But I don't know. In closing, as far as this movie's concerned, because there's so much backlash towards it from fans. There seems to be such a schism in the fandom right now. For me, I've been using my good old Alien and Aliens analogy all week to tell people what I think about this movie. In my opinion, Aliens, some of my favorite movies ever. In my opinion, Alien is the better movie. Great script in all manner. Like, I just think it's objectively the best movie in all of the Aliens films. Aliens is the one I would just rather watch. If I'm homesick and I want to have a good time, I'm putting on Aliens, even though I think Alien is the better movie. And with The Last Jedi, I think it is the better movie, but I would probably rather put on Force Awakens if I want to just rewatch some Star Wars.
Yeah, 100%.
I can totally see that.
Yeah, because it's so twisty. Once you know the twists, I don't think it's as exciting.
I think it's a movie that you wish you could edit the best parts of it together and watch it over and over and over again. But there's going to be a lot of forward clicking in the streaming when I get it.
Yeah, no, I think you're right.
But it was powerful and it was earned and it was I love
it's
all
intricate.
the choice. Yeah, it's intricate. It took 2 viewings to get, and a ton of people said that. Like, it really grows on you. I saw it 3 times and I was still finding new stuff in it, and
Definitely.
I like that, and that's what we needed. We couldn't, it's weird. Like, people were so complainy in the first one because they were like, it's just all a reboot of A New Hope, and it's all this and it's all that. And then the second one, they were like, it's too different. And you're just like, what? What do they got to do?
I have seen both complaints for The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
That it's to the same.
That's what's funny is I've seen people trying to say it's a beat-for-beat remake of Empire, and other people saying it's nothing like any other Star Wars movie. It's too weird.
Yeah.
So maybe that means they did it right.
I think it's. I've been saying balance the whole damn show. I think it's balance. I think it really rides the line of paying homage to what came before it, while also burning a decent amount of it to the ground and planting new seeds.
Yep.
So I really enjoyed it. I probably won't rewatch it as many times as I will Force Awakens, but it's still Star Wars, and I will still rewatch it because I still rewatch Phantom Menace every now and then, for crying out loud. So
I'm sorry.
Okay, that's weird.
I like pod racing. Leave me alone.
That's even weirder.
All right, folks. Well, let's wrap it up.
I mean, when I say that, I mean wizard.
Just like
Get out.
I just like the sequence.
You go to the dark side sunken place.
I was like 11 when that movie came out, okay?
I know. I'm sorry.
I'm not going to fight that it's a good movie. It's definitely the worst Star Wars movie ever. But anyways, if you want to write in, let us know what you think is next. Or you have some thoughts on The Last Jedi that we didn't mention here. Send it to feedback@letstalkaboutstarwars.com. I can tell you right now, if you're just going to type in all caps about how bad this movie is and how wrong we are, we probably won't read that on the show.
Nope.
Kind of.
But if you have a thoughtful reason why it didn't move you, we really want to hear that. We really want to hear it. I just don't want to be yelled at. But yeah, feedback@letstalkaboutstarwars.com. Thank you to our patrons over at patreon.com/letstalkaboutstarwars. If you haven't been keeping up and you listened to our Patreon talk on the last episode, don't need to worry about it. Patreon's rolling back on everything they announced, so it's back to normal. And if you've been enjoying...
Nothing to see here. Please move along.
Yes, and if you've been enjoying these twice monthly episodes, well, our next goal is to do this show regularly twice a month. So if you really enjoy the show, you get something out of it, and you want to give something back, patreon.com/letstalkaboutstarwars is the best way to do that. Around the table before we go, Tom Merritt, I'll start with you this time. Where can everybody find you?
I am at tommerritt.com. It's probably the easiest place to find all the things I do. I write books, I do podcasts, and most pertinent to the folks listening to this episode, I have every year now done an episode of Pretend I'm Dumb About Star Wars, where I go and review the movie as if I know nothing about Star Wars except what I've seen in the movies. The conceit originally was starting with episode 1 as if I was new to the entire thing, and then watching it all the way through to 6 in preparation for Force Awakens. What I've been doing every year since then is just going in and saying, like, I don't really keep up. I don't remember all the characters. Like, let me see if this still makes sense to me. So it'll be fun. I've got character names like Zappy and Baldroid. And if you want to check it out, go to youtube.com/acedetect.
Jennie Josephson.
I'm at Jennie J23, JENNIEJ23, and I do some stuff, but probably not before the end of the year. So, like, go check it out in January.
Awesome. I'm Garrett Art on Twitter. All of the podcasts I do are over at amove.tv. So hope everybody enjoyed this. The episode was almost as long as the movie itself, and we plan to talk about more. So we will be back after the holidays with our next episode of Let's Talk About Star Wars. Thank you all so much for listening. I can't wait to go see The Last Jedi again. May the Force be with you.
Always.
Blip, blabbity, blop. That was my other favorite line in the movie.
Oh, yeah.
Blip,
That's
blabbity,
something
blop.
Justin Robert Young and Brian Brushwood are always saying. And I was like, oh, my God. They quoted Night
Amazing.
Attack.
All right, you guys, here's the cake. Ready? Ready for an aerial of the island? This is a Star Wars cake that they made
That's
at a
a
place
cake.
called... That's a
That's
cake.
an
Look,
edible
Show the other
cake.
side. Yeah. Show the
Yeah.
cut
look,
side.
cake there. It's a cake,
The-
and it's the island of Octo. We bought
Octo.
these 3 1/4-inch figures of Rey and Luke, and I literally made the guy who does the cakes switch their position. I was like, they're in the wrong spot. Like, he got so mad at me. He was like, it's 2:00 on a Friday. What do you do? I'm like, no, they're in the wrong spot. So there you go. That's a real cake of the island of Octo.
I mean,
and it's
they're action figures.
delicious.
You could have just picked one up and moved it, right?
No, I could have, but like, he's a very serious baker. So anyway, I thought I would just share that with you guys because it's the greatest, and the Star Wars shelf, the shelf O Star Wars.
Yeah. Well, this I was looking forward to since I saw the movie, and it did not disappoint, guys. This was really fun.
Yep, it was
Yeah,
so
yeah.
awesome.
It was a good time.
Thank you for sitting through my crate salt. I felt like someone needed to bring some saltiness.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. No problem.
But I've been loving this movie. I've been fighting people online.
Good for you. I'm not even getting into it because I'm just like,
No,
you know
I
what?
mean-
I loved it. I don't
I've
need
had
to
some
fight
great
it.
conversations with people who didn't like it, and
Oh, I
productive
have too.
conversations. And I think what you were getting to at the end of the episode is, if you're just going to tell us we're wrong for liking it, then we're not interested. If you want
Right.
to say like, hey, I respect that you liked it, I didn't, here's why, then that's cool. Like, we can have that conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm in the same boat. I've definitely had some cool chats with folks that didn't like. Katie's in that boat. But I was like, oh, head over heels for it, and then we were like, I don't know, we were up at Disney hanging out at the hot tub at the hotel. And I think she finally was like, all right, let me level with you. I didn't think it was that great.
Eileen wasn't sure she liked it the first time. On the second viewing, she's like, okay, I like it. She still has issues with it, more issues than I did. And my buddy Len Peralta, our friend, we were having a long text conversation. He's like, I didn't not like it. He's like, but I have these major issues, and it was actually really enlightening to kind of work through all of those things.
Yeah, I don't think I liked it like immediately walking out of the theater. I was very shell shocked. I didn't really know what to think, and
If anything, I liked it more the first time than I did the second.
okay.
Like, I came out of the first one like, that was amazing, and the second time I was like, okay, I see
What?
a few seams now. Like, I was bedazzled the first time.
Huh.
But I also picked up more the second time, so
Yeah, the more I thought about it, the more I liked it. It kind of simmered with me.
yeah.
I loved it every time I saw it. It made me really happy, and I'm glad we can talk about it all year long.
Yay.
Yeah, I am too.
Yay.
Until Han Solo.
Which I am even less excited about now.
Also, I forgot. God, we could have talked about this for another 2 hours, but I literally loved more than anything the fact that the whole like women on the bridge was like a total Kathleen Kennedy metaphor. It was just like Oh, did some budget guy directors tell you they wanted to do the movie a certain way and don't trust your judgment? Bye. That was my little meta wink. It was very much a Kathleen Kennedy moment. So anyway, that's my feminist ranting and raging off me. So, bye internet. But yeah, okay, more next month.
Yep, indeed.
I'm gonna go keep watching The Crown.
I'm gonna go see if Katie is somehow miraculously still awake.
All right.
I'll talk to you all later. That was great. It'll be up tomorrow. Chat room.
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
Are we still live?
We are still live. Chat room, thanks for being awesome.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.